the first half of the show and continuing the second half of the show, we're going to talk about the political situation, not in the United States today, but in Pakistan, where today 24 people or so were killed in a suicide bombing, an attempt apparently to disrupt the election process. We have concerns that are being expressed by many people that the parliamentary elections may or may not get off on February the 18th, that we may have open elections or not. Our last caller suggested that, hey, some opposition candidates can't even run because Musharraf put them into jail. And so how open and free are the elections anyway? So we want to continue this discussion with another expert on the situation in Pakistan. His name is Junaid Ahmad. I think we've had you on here before. He is president of the National Muslim Law Students Association and a member of the Pakistan-based People Rights Movement. Junaid, welcome to News Talk Online on Paltalk.com.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Well, it's good to have you, and can we ask you to speak up just a tad more, and help me if I'm mispronouncing your name, please. Tell us what the People's Rights Movement's position is on this election in Pakistan.
Well, you know, in general, the People's Rights Movement has been part of the democratic struggle that's emerged in Pakistan since the spring of 2007, particularly against the dictatorship of Pervez Musharraf. So, as are many of the groups in civil society, we, you know, are very suspicious of the nature of these elections, and particularly whether they will be free and fair, and there are serious doubts about that. And one of the important points to point out, even right now, is that the emergency rule that Musharraf imposed for 40 days from early November to mid-December, many of the provisions that he enacted during that emergency rule actually continue to persist, and they have actually become constitutional amendments. And you know, some of that includes severe press restrictions, as well as the purging of the Supreme Court justices. And essentially, those amendments and any challenge to Musharraf's rule cannot take place unless there's a 2/3 majority in the parliament that tries to overturn them. So a lot of the measures that Musharraf implemented during the emergency rule, the very draconian measures, in fact, continue to persist in the country, which makes these elections not so serious, you know.
Not valid. So let me just say this, and tell me if my observation is incorrect, please. It seems to me that while there are a lot of political parties, a lot of different points of view in Pakistan, the one thing that there seems to be a unifying factor, that people think that Musharraf is a bastard and needs to be removed from office.
Right. Yeah. Well, you know, that view has really emerged as the dominant view in the country. I'll be fair and say that perhaps that wasn't the view during the first half of, say, Musharraf's rule. Musharraf was very much viewed as an enlightened dictator. When he came to power, he really liberalized the media. The media was thriving, a free and independent press. You did feel free in the country to have critical views of Musharraf, of what was going on. But I think as, you know, 2004, 2005, and particularly the last 2 years, Musharraf has become more and more autocratic. His purging of the Supreme Court, his at least first attempt to remove the Supreme Court Chief Justice, and then of course removing not only the Chief Justice but a whole group of judges that were deemed by him to be quote unquote irresponsible, essentially not complying with his command. So as he's engaged in this, and of course the notorious emergency rule that he imposed, now he's completely discredited. And as many of your listeners will know, that the assassinated former Prime Minister and leader of the Pakistan People's Party, Benazir Bhutto, essentially was being brought back into the country to save his deeply unpopular regime, to really give a civilian face to that regime. Of course, now she's assassinated, and it's very uncertain where the political winds will go.
And part of the debate about the political debate in and outside of Pakistan surrounds that assassination. We first heard the story that Al Qaeda was behind it, and then we hear the absurdity that the United States, and now, we've heard that Musharraf might be behind it, but the most absurd statement that I have heard coming out of anybody's lips was, that came out from Musharraf himself, who said the person responsible for Bhutto's assassination is Bhutto for standing up in the car. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, how insensitive a comment for him to make to a nation in mourning.
Absolutely. No, I mean, his initial response was far better, in which, clearly he also, as many of the leading political luminaries in the country, were showing sympathy and with the situation. But then, yeah, this comment came out, and absolutely. I mean, I think it just is completely. If he had, any support within a small layer of the population, I think even that was gone when he made this type of a comment. But the fact is that, yeah, both Musharraf, the Bush administration, and many others were immediately trying to point the blame just to the single hand of a Islamic extremist behind this, whereas others were far more suspicious of that claim and were insinuating that there perhaps were links between, whoever did it, if it was an Islamist, and the military itself, or the military security establishment, which includes the notorious intelligence agencies in the country. So there were clearly lots of forces in the country that would benefit from her death beyond just the Islamic extremists. I think definitely sections in the military security establishment, as well as other more well-established pro-Musharraf crony-type politicians that have been in cahoots with Musharraf for the past 8 years of his rule, and that were also becoming nervous about the powerful political role that Benazir Bhutto was assuming in the country.
Junaid Ahmad is the president of the National Muslim Law Students Association and a member of the Pakistan-based People's Rights Movement, and he is helping us continue this hour-long discussion on the terrible political situation in Pakistan and its potential ramifications to the rest of the world. Our next caller is Maria. Maria is joining us from London. Maria, welcome to News Talk Online on Paltalk.com.
Oh, thank you, Gary. Well, until I came to this room, I didn't know that 12 innocent people had been killed. It's very sad news that people were killed in a terrorist attack.
Yeah, over 24 actually, so some 24 or 25 people, depending on whose count you're looking at.
Oh, okay, Gary, thank you for that. I never heard on the news that it happened. But I'd just like to say, for what reason were those people targeted? For what reason? They were just innocent people, and it's just sad to hear. I think Musharraf, what I think about him, I think he's a dictator. If he imprisons his opponents, he's a dictator. And I'm guessing why America supports him. I guess it's because, are they afraid of the fact that Pakistan has nuclear weapons and they only want it to remain under Musharraf? Is that the reason why the United States supports him? Because he definitely doesn't stand for democracy.
Yeah, Junaid, what do you think about that? Why does the United States support a regime such as this, do you think?
Sure. Well, first of all, it's important to remember that Musharraf is not the first military dictator that the United States